So I've got 50 feet here, and I also have a shuttle, which is a handy little pencil here, so I can do the weaving, and then an O-ring. Now for this example, I've run out of O-rings because I've already recreated my clues, so I'm just going to use this carabiner for today. I've also created clues, really lightweight versions. This is one made out of lashet, there's some Dyneema, and an aluminum descender ring. This entire clue weighs 1.3 ounces. I based this jig off of the measurements I took from the original clue. Again, I tried so many different ways to create this jig. This is the final version, and I decided to put the hooks. You can see the hooks are assembled on the outside of the frame versus the inside. That allowed me to get a little more length out of it. Again, you can make the jig bigger, so you don't have to do it this way, but it worked out great. Now these hooks are 1.5 inches apart. There are 12 of them, and that allows me to create the loops or the bights in the nettles. Alright, I've got 4 feet of standing line. This is the end, one end here. And that's going to be off to the side, and it's going to go through the front here, and then I'm going to pass it down to my outer hook first, and then bring it back up, and again I'm going to go through the front and follow that pattern through the front, back down, and I always make sure that it loops around the hook the same way. So I'm going to come around the outside of the hook and then back up. So always on the outside or the right side. As long as you're consistent, that's important. I've finished setting up all the nettles. Again, they've all passed through the front and all hooked down on each of these hooks to make the loops. Now it's essential that you don't make these too tight. And I'm going to loosen this up just a little bit, because once I start the weaving process, it's going to really tighten up these nettles and put a lot of strain on the frame, this jig I've created. So just light tension, not a lot. Again, I've got my 2 working ends held off to the side, ready for some action. And then I'm going to start using my shuttle here to pull out these strands and begin weaving. To begin my weave, I have the rope that's in the front. If I follow it all the way down, in my case, is on the left side of the hook. So I want to pull up to begin weaving. I'm going to pull up the right side or the outer of each of these nettles and pull them up so I can create that twisting pattern to begin my weave. And I'm going to do that with each nettle. I'm going to pull out the right side of the nettle using my shuttle. So the right side of each one, as you can see, I'm going to pull it out, and that's going to create my first weave. Alright, notice how I've got my shuttle in there, and I've crisscrossed and interlaced the nettles. And now I'm going to take my 2 working ends, and they're going to crisscross through here. So now I'm going to take my shuttle and pull the left side of each nettle to, again, interlace the weave. And this is the pattern that you'll use going back and forth between those 2. And I use that shuttle to really tighten up and dress up the weave, make it look really nice. And then I do the same thing. Take my 2 working ends, I'm going to pass them through where my shuttle is. So now that I've made 2 passes, there's the first pass and the second pass, now I'm going to start skipping a pair of nettles. So this is my first pair here. You can see how it's already been hooked right here. So on my next pass, I'm going to skip that pair and the 2 outer pairs, and then only weave these inner 10 pair. And that'll be the pattern. From now on, after I've done 2 passes, I'm going to start skipping the outermost pairs until I get all the way down to the final 2 pair. Alright, this is the tricky part that I took a while to figure out, many trials and errors here. So I've got my shuttle through here, and you can notice that I've skipped the outer nettle, and I've only shuttled through the inner ones. There's the other outer one that I've skipped right there. Now, for my working end, to skip it, see if I can show you this, I'm going to make sure it goes in between that pair of nettles, so I've also skipped it. And now I can take my working end and pass it through the remaining nettles on both sides. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to take this working end and pass it through the middle of the skipped nettle, and then pass it through the shuttle. Alright, I'm all done. I'm left with my 2 final nettles here and my 2 strands. Now to finish this off, I'm just going to tie a decorative knot, which is a diamond knot, a 2-strand diamond knot. Now all I have to do is trim those edges, fuse the ends, and we're done. Attaching the clue to the hammock is very simple. I've got my 5/8 inch twisted poly rope, and I am just feeding the nettles through the grommets, and then I pass this rope through each one of the nettles like so, and that's done. I've got the hammock hooked up indoors here. Just do some eye bolts inside. One of the unique things about the World War II Navy hammocks is that they are not hung at a very deep sag, fairly shallow, but you get a pretty good lay in it actually. And you'll also notice that the ropes, at least this attachment rope here, is on the outside, and that really helps in the overall lay and shape of this hammock. So make sure that this rope here that connects the nettles is on the outside, so when you sleep in it, you won't be sleeping on the rope.